Welcome back, everyone. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. The way that British politics is, it's a YouTuber's dream, a political commentator's dream. It's never ending. So I thought, well, we should have the dream team on to, to sort of like look up to it. So here we are. We got the dream team. We got the one and only Howard Cox, needs no introduction, internationally famous lion tamer. I mean, honestly, Howard, I've seen you more on telly recently than anyone I can't imagine. I'm going to have to start going through your agent.
And all for the wrong reasons.
Bless you. Howard, welcome to the show. I've got the ever reliable Danny in Spain. Danny, good evening. I know the bloody weather's picked up since I left. Typical, just my luck.
Yes, mate. I was counting down the days till you left, and today it was blistering sunshine. It was beautiful.
Well, there you go. There you go. And we do have, of course, in the house, the one and only Richard Inman. Who, Richard, I've got to say, I've been reading so many.
San Miguel, just to keep Spanish theme. There you go.
Spanish theme going. Richard, I've seen more compliments for you in the comments today than I think I have done in the last year. And that's because people are saying, you know what, that Richard Inman, he was bloody right after all. So don't get too lemon tonight, Richard, because I've got an out button here. I can always kick you out, right? So there you go. Be careful.
That's it now. You won't be able to get back in.
You do that one more time. I'm not coming back.
Right. Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening to everyone in the chat. Lovely to have you all back. First of all, can I just say a massive thank you to everyone, because this week you guys have given me over 500,000 views. Unbelievable, insane. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. This channel wouldn't exist without you guys. And certainly the guys that are on screen now wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you either. So we might as well start as we mean to carry on. Before we get into the big stuff tonight, the big story, we've got over 2,000 people already. But the numbers are going to grow. Before we go any further, I just want to pick up on this one. This is the intro story. Now, he's a delightful looking chap. It's a Hamas follower from Gaza who has filmed himself arriving into Britain after making a small boat crossing journey across the English Channel, sparking major security fears. Palestinian firebrand Abu Wadid, however you spell that, real name Mossab Al-Qassas, who is in his 20s, has more than 170,000 followers on TikTok. I bet they're a delightful bunch. And has regularly posted videos from the bombed out Hamas stronghold. Now, this story has been doing the rounds all over the weekend. But the one question that I've not seen anyone ask, we know where he is. He's in England, but where's the bugger now? Howard, any ideas?
Well, I was going to say the same question. What the hell are the police doing about it? If we know this guy is a flipping terrorist, and if he is a self-declared worshipper of an outlawed, terrorist group, Hamas, why the hell are they not jumping all over him and putting him in behind bars? I have no idea. There's a lot of gone on this week, but this just adds to it, doesn't it?
Have they looked at the top of Big Ben by any chance?
Well, that's a good shout, Danny. Yeah, I was waiting all day yesterday for that pillar to fall off, but
it didn't happen, did it?
No, so was I. I don't normally watch Sky News, but I kept flicking across just in case you caught that moment when he had a little topple. And
but here's the thing. I mean, look, Richard, here's the thing, right? I mean, look, all the news outlets have been highlighting this guy's arrival into the UK. But not one of them, not that I've heard, I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I haven't heard anyone say, right, where is he now? We know he's come, but where is he? Is he in custody? Is he living in a hotel already? I mean, where is this guy? I mean, whilst we're having a bit of a laugh and a joke about it, and you've got to laugh, otherwise you just go absolutely insane, there is a very, very, very serious side to this, right, guys? I mean, he's a committed Hamas supporter with a large following of potentially other terrorist supporters. He's a committed anti-Semite that has said he wants to kill all the Jews, etc. This is not funny. This is no joke, is it?
No, it's not. Do you know what, Paul? I mean, I don't know if you've seen what's been happening in Syria in the last few days.
Yes.
But
Yes,
so this do you remember we had the cuddly jihadi and they were saying how progressive this guy was, and look, he's going to be very inclusive, and there's going to be able to, you'll have transvestites serving in the army, and that you'll have people with rainbow coloured flags walking around the streets. He's a progressive jihadi, absolutely wonderful. Unfortunately, he didn't get the memo, and what we've seen in the past 3 or 4 days is around 1,000 Alawites butchered, men, women, and children, and now they're starting on the Christians. I think there's been a couple of hundred Christians killed by this lovely, cuddly jihadi group that's backed and sponsored by the Caliph of Turkey, Erdogan. And the reason that's relevant to the story you've just told, Paul, is how do we know who these young gentlemen, these young men that are coming here as refugees from Syria, how do we know that they are not sleeper cells from these jihadi, ISIS-inspired, Al-Qaeda-inspired organizations? I think we're literally, okay, this one guy from Hamas is obviously worrying, but I'm worried about all the ones that we don't know that are in the hotels dotted up and down the country. Who are they? Who sponsored them?
Rich, don't worry. They'll be on all the terror watch lists, mate. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It'll be on the 50,000 terror watch list. Like we've got the capability to watch them all. Do you know what I mean? You haven't got nothing to stress about.
Fight them. I mean, we've only got 74,000 soldiers, and we're talking about putting frontline soldiers in the field, we've got 30,000 if we're lucky. So the jihadis outnumber us kind of 2 to 1 at the minute.
At the minute,
that's in our country.
What gets me also, this guy has got 190,000 YouTube subscribers, and he collects money via PayPal. How is that legal? I mean, you just can't.
And here's the irony. Here's the irony. Let me tell you something now, Howard. If you set up a business tonight from your front room and try and accept PayPal, you'll have to jump through hoops.
I know.
Not only to PayPal, but then also to your bank, right? Also close your bank account down. I mean,
or freeze it.
Or freeze it. It's literally got to the point where I can't even say that the lunatics are running the asylum. The asylum has been taken over by another asylum with a load of lunatics running that. I mean, it's just complete. I'm trying to think of a Blackadder analysis, But honestly, I mean, absolutely incredible. But in all seriousness, I mean, if you're a member of the Jewish community right now, what's going through your mind? What are you thinking? You've got to be worried. You've got to be super concerned.
Well, you feel let down and betrayed, don't you, by this government? I mean, everything about it. This is not a safe country anymore, and it's going to get worse and worse. And we got the leader of this unsafe country, perpetuating myths and celebrating Ramadan and not selling, things like that. We saw that this week, didn't we? And all that sort of thing. And he didn't celebrate, the start of Lent or anything like that. If you're a Christian and you're white and like blokes, basically, you've had it. And if you're Jewish on top of that, you will be petrified. It's disgusting.
You really are bottom of the pile if you're Jewish as well as middle-aged white male, aren't you? I mean, I mean, that's a big problem.
Most of my Jewish friends are telling me they're leaving. They're looking.
I don't blame them.
Yep, they're going to Florida. They're going to the States. They're going to Israel. They're getting out of Dodge. They're getting out because it's just they just think it's too dangerous, and that's a tragedy. So we're losing Aaron and Moses, and we're bringing in Abdul Asif and Aisha. I'm not happy with that.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? I mean, me, I always like to try and play devil's advocate a little bit because you got to have some kind of balance, right, on a show. Otherwise, you're just preaching the converted all the time. But here's a question. Is anything that we've said there, is there any way that anyone could genuinely look at that and say, well, that's genuinely racist? To be worried about these people coming in, that is racism. How on earth how can people justify a comment like that?
Well, they can't. They simply can't, Paul. I mean, it's very easy to brand these things now, isn't it? Far right, racist, this, that, Zionist, whatever. we're getting labelled with it all the time, but it's actually getting more and more less meaning. There's no meaning behind it anymore because they just labelled it left, right, and centre.
You're right, Danny, because personally, I don't care what colour or ethnicity or religion an offender is. An offender is an offender. And I don't want any bloody... Yeah, we just don't want the offenders, do we? I mean, Howard, if you get mugged in the street tomorrow, God forbid, the last thing on your mind is what religion it is. It's just that the bastard has just mugged you, right?
You've been mugged. You've been mugged.
Well, criminality is criminality. It's irrespective of what gender, colour. It's simple as that. And we have a two-tier thing. No doubt we'll talk about that tonight. It's, what we've heard this week. The fact is that David Lammy's been pushing for this different sort of thing. If you're ethnic and if you're black or if you're that. So, sorry, I said that word. But, you'll get less a sentence than a white guy. And it's unbelievable. I'm living. As you know how old I am. I've lived in this country. I can't wait to get off this planet. I really am. I'm so fed up to the back teeth. And I've got a daughter of 33 who works her butt off driving a big HGV truck, and she's worried sick, about her life. And she's at the peak of her life at 33. For God's sake, she's got so much to look forward to. But her and her friends are scared shitless. Sorry, I shouldn't.
Yeah, I don't blame.
No,
I don't blame him. Look. Howard, look, I'll tell you what, mate, hang around this movement for and you might get your wish. You might not be hanging around much longer. That's the way it goes in this business.
Well, that's true, isn't it? And
Tell me about it.
But yeah,
look, right. What's the end? What's the end goal? What's the end goal for the government here? Right? There's a millionaire or a entrepreneur leaving every 45 minutes, leaving the UK. They're importing people that are on the system where they're scrounging off of the system every single day. So you've got the people that are paying the highest amounts of taxes. They're all on their way out because there's so many incentives for them to go to the likes of the tax-free countries and bits and bobs. So why would they hang about here? So they're going, and then the UK government is losing massive taxpayers. And they're importing people that are paying no tax and actually taking off of the system all the time. What's the end result? Let's look 5-10 years down the line. There's going to be no money in the country and the country will be broke. Then what happens? They increase taxes on the people that are paying it? Well, they can't because they haven't got the ability to pay any more taxes.
Yeah.
There's no sense in their system at all.
Is absolutely spot on. I just want to read this out. English by the grace of God. Reform telling the press that Rupert has dementia. I haven't heard that, but is that Rose, Paul, welcome home. Thank you very much, darling. I appreciate that. I've not heard that. Have you heard that, Howard?
No, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me the way the head shed of Reform have been behaving towards Rupert Lowe. It's absolutely incredible. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, I know Rupert very, very well, and I'll tell you, he's sharp as a button. He hasn't got any problem with his neurological functioning and his deliberations, that sort of thing. This is an absolute, well, it's an assassination attempt of political assassination that I just can't believe is happening. And I've been in touch with him. I've been in touch with Ben Habib about it, and lots of other people who've been basically, been thrown under the bus by the Zia Youssef regime.
Yeah. Well, we get on to it now. I mean, look, we're 4,500 people in across the platforms. John Clegg says, I emailed Rupert and thanked him for his strong opinions. He got back to me and thanked me. Fantastic.
He always will. He always will.
Yeah, we'll start off with you, Howard, because obviously you've been the closest to this situation. I mean, my first question that I've actually written down here tonight is just what is the problem for Rupert Lowe? What is the problem, Rupert? Sorry, Howard, how do you see the current situation?
Well, Rupert has been, if we just give a bit of a background to it, he is popular. He's getting more and more popular, and he's the only one of the 5 MPs doing a proper MP's job, especially about immigration. You listen to him asking questions in a house. Nigel does it for the cameras and for the celebrity status. I like Nigel still, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say he should not be the leader and all that here. I'm just saying that they're picking on Rupert because Rupert stands out better than Nigel and is much better at communicating genuine things that all of us are worried about, particularly on immigration.
Yeah.
And, And the other thing also, it goes back a long way, but I think I told you this before. Most of this blame I put on you, Zia Youssef, the chairman of Reform. I stood for London Mayor, and I stood to become an MP down in Dover and Deal, and I did quite well down there. I knew I had no chance in London, and what's his name? Zia joined in mid-July, and that was just after the general election. He hasn't even spoken to me in that time from headquarters. I gave 2 years of my life up and did a good job and brought a hell of a lot of support to Reform through my campaigning for motorists and drivers across the country. A huge amount of people, my supporters, joined Reform because of my say-so. Just like Tommy said, vote Reform. Loads of people came over from here. And what we're seeing at the moment in time is this guy put 200,000, bought the chairmanship. They dumped people like Paul Oakton. They dumped people like David Ball. They dumped people like Ben Habib. And it goes on forever. And it's a common theme in this is that chairmanship. And unfortunately, Nigel uses these people to do his dirty work. And I promise you that what I'm hearing from very close people to Nigel was jealous of Rupert big time, massively, because of course. And I could go on forever about this, but you guys say what you think. But I can promise you, Rupert,
one of the things,
he's not guilty of anything.
Yeah, one of the criticisms that's come through from a Reform insider to me tonight, and I said I'd pass this on because, as I said, we have to have a bit of balance, right? If we don't have balance, we haven't got anything. I mean, one of the criticisms from this insider was that Rupert hadn't been attending any of the rallies, that he was always too busy. And there's another thing that came up as well, is that the timing of Rupert's comments weren't particularly good, especially considering we got the May elections coming up. I mean, look, if the first one is true, I don't know if that first one is true. That's just what's been passed on to me. If that's true, there's a point. And I have to say there is a point about the timing not being brilliant because of the May elections. But I mean, Richard, does that even matter, or is there a point or two there?
Well, I'm going to drop something in the private chat for you, Paul, because I've just grabbed it off Twitter, and it's that reference that claim that was made by the I can't forget the guy's name in the comments. I'm not sure it was Super Chat or just a chat. And that came from Rupert's own Twitter page, that the press has been briefed that he's got dementia, which is, if that's true, that's absolutely incredible. I honestly, I mean, I think there's one of two options.
So we can read this out. Right? This is on Rupert's Twitter page, yeah?
This is on Rupert's This is on Rupert's Twitter page. Let me just double check. Yes, Rupert Lowe, blue tick. That's his Twitter page. If you want, I'll read it. I've been informed by a reliable source that senior Reform figures have been briefing journalists that I have dementia. In politics, there is rough and tumble. I get that, but this is sick. What are they doing to me? It's disgusting. So that's straight from. And I think this could bring down.
26 minutes ago.
Yeah, this could bring down
26 minutes ago, Rich.
The entire party. And I think, and I'll be honest with you, and I think Howard, you need to get your boots on already, because I think if Ben and Rupert are quick-footed enough, if this does actually start to implode Reform, they could very quickly set up another party or another grouping that people could flock across to. And I can tell you now that they would get far more support than Reform would. Okay, Farage has got a profile, but he's one man. If you've got a real breadth of people like yourself, Howard, Peter Whittle from New Culture Forum, I'm just naming some people, I'm just plucking people out there, Liz Truss, Rupert, Ben Habib, you'd have some party. If Suella would come out, you'd have some amazing party, and it would, Reform would be finished. And I think either people from that headshed, Zia Youssef and possibly even Nigel himself and Lee Anderson that have been obviously behind this have to go, or I think Reform will start to unravel. That's my opinion. And again, I've always had an issue with the way Reform's been run. But that's what I think.
Richard, I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. Again, I reiterate this for the audience, because some people jump on halfway through. and they haven't heard me say I'm playing devil's advocate here, but there are three main issues, I think, on people's minds. We've got to break up this uni-party situation. That has to be broken up. We've got to stop the boats. And we have to end this net zero nonsense. Now, Reform, whether we like it or not, are still the only party that are supposedly committed to all three of those things. No one else is. So how does that square with what you're saying?
But look, right. Reform is a fairly new party, right? They're trying to get their inside organisation going. Okay, I've made some notes here as well, and as I understand it, Rupert Lowe has been suspended. Right, he's lost his whip at the moment, so that makes him now an independent MP. Am I right?
Yes.
Yep. Right. So he's been suspended. Now, let's go back. Say there was an allegation of bullying or some sort of issue, and I'm not saying he's guilty, of course. I'm saying let's go back to the root core of it. If there is, say a police officer's accused of the same thing, a lot of the time they would be suspended as well. Now look on the other side of the shoe. If this is genuine, whatever he's been accused of, I'm not saying it is, but if it is genuine, would it not be worse if Reform hadn't acted and taken no notice of it whatsoever? I'm not saying that he is guilty, of course. I'm saying, would it not be worse that that the allegations were ignored?
Well, you're absolutely right.
I think that, but you're innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah,
you are, but you would still be suspended in the police force, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
The important thing is that a lot of this should have
he's
been
suspended at the moment. He's not sacked.
Yeah, it should have been done behind closed doors.
I agree.
And a lot of these things. The thing that he apparently threatens here happened in December, right? That's 3 months ago, and it was hurty words again. Yeah, they had a shouting match. I've had shouting matches with people. People shouted at me and that sort of thing.
You don't phone the police.
Exactly. And equally, the two people that supposedly abused in the parliamentary and the constituent offices weren't by him. It was by someone else in his office. It wasn't him. Now, he walked across also to see that I think junior transport minister or whatever it was, and he's supposed to have been threatened to him. That was sorted out by Lindsay Hoyle. They shook hands afterwards and walked away. All of a sudden, it's blown out of all proportion. Everything that Rupert does now, he is a pariah. Now, the fact is he's popular. He's getting more and more popular. My inbox is full of people saying Rupert Lowe should be leader. You know, even now they're saying that sort of thing. And Nigel has got a track record with UKIP and with Brexit of, a lot of corpses laid on, political corpses. You just ask people like Michael Crick and Gerald Batten, and all those people will tell you what he left behind. And if he doesn't get his own way quickly, he walks away. I mean, he wasn't around when I was standing for London Mayor. Richard Tice was leader of the party. If he'd been the leader, and I'm not saying, because I rate Nigel big time. He is a political colossus and a very professional guy. And I still believe, you said it just now, Reform UK is still the only solution because of what I believe in. They feel that centre-right position, that Thatcherite position that I've always believed in, and I still believe in it. But one thing I've done wrong, and I believe in all of that, as you know, I spoke about Tommy, in support of Tommy. So is Rupert, and so is Ben Habib. There's some consistent theme here, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. I've got a couple of polls going. I've got one. Sorry, Richard. I'll bring you in just one sec, mate. I've got a couple of polls going on. The first one was on the community tab. I put it up 4 hours ago. It's already had 15,000 votes. Wow. The question was, who do you trust the most? Nigel Farage, 21%. Rupert Lowe, 79%. And on the actual live stream, let's have a little look at that on the vote on that. So who do you stand with? Rupert Lowe, Nigel Farage, both or neither? Let's have a little look at the result of that one so far. Is neither 7%, both 8%, Nigel 5%, Rupert 80%. Wow. They are pretty telling stats. Si, thank you very much, Si. Good evening, gents. Kev Shaw, working for Deliveroo. Muttley has gifted 10 memberships. Thank you very much, Muttley. Someone will benefit from those. I appreciate that. Laurie N, we should change the national anthem to Laurel and Hardy theme tune. Country is a complete joke. Do you know what? That's not a bad shout at the moment, is it? And David Crosby, hi boys, Labour are finding many cunning plans.
I mean, they must be rubbing their hands together with this, mustn't they? Let's be honest.
This is the thing. I mean, I think we need to sort of look at this whole situation with reform. The reality is this is unsustainable, because if he keeps getting rid of his talent, he's going to be left with him and a few sycophants and Zia Youssef and Richard Tice. Well, it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, though. Sorry to interrupt, Rich, but we've got 400 MPs that potentially could get in from reform at the next election. 400. Now, those 400 get in. It doesn't really matter about Nigel Farage or Rupert Lowe.
Well, Dan, it does.
Sorry, guys.
But they will get. They will get a vote of no confidence.
No. Listen, you're missing the point. The point is the governance of the party. This is what Ben has been going on about, been banging on the drum about for the past 6 months. It's really, really important that this is sorted out now, that there's a mechanism, and Nigel is setting up mechanisms that have the appearance of democracy, but he is unassailable. He is a dictator. That's the fact. And the more he gets close, so if he's doing this now with people who are his friends, what's he going to be like if he becomes prime minister? I think this is really serious, and I honestly think the only way that we can do this is if somehow there's a mechanism to get rid of those three clowns that are at the top of the tree, including Nigel Farage, and bring in people like Rupert Lowe, Ben Habib. And I think if that doesn't happen, then there has to be a new party set up. I really do, and we've got time to do it. But what we can't have. You see, this is the future of my country, and I'm not going to bet my bottom dollar on Farage when I've seen when I was in UKIP, when he did that to UKIP, when he turned Batten over, when he turned Tommy over. I was at the heart of UKIP then. I was sitting at the, I wasn't involved in the NEC, but I was very close to Gerard at the time, and we did that. We were the ones that got the football lads, the Tommy people and Patriots into UKIP, and Farage hated it. And he did everything in his power to destroy it, and he was very successful at destroying it. He did exactly the same with the Brexit Party. He's done exactly the same, and he's doing exactly the same with reform. I'm sorry, and I know he's your mate, Howard, but I cannot have the man, because it's my country that's at stake. It's not about personalities; it's about saving the country. And reform, as it is now, will either become another uni party, or it will not get that broad base of votes that we need. So we need to be able to bring Liz Truss, Suella Braverman. Why do you think Liz Truss and Suella Braverman haven't joined reform? There's a reason for that. They don't trust Farage.
Richard, let me just go back a bit. He's not my mate. I've got no respect for him one bit at the moment in time.
Yeah.
And I'd say to I can be a critical friend as well, and that's what I am. And, I think you guys know, and a lot of people that, thanks to you, Paul, your channel, and people like Dan Wotton and people like Liam Channel, people are writing to me and saying, thank you for standing on your principles. And I will never, ever change from that. And I don't give a damn whether Nigel likes it or not. He's been rubbishing me beyond belief ever since I said, Tommy Robinson needs to get. He should apologise to Tommy for saying that he actually beats up women, which is, I've called out for that regularly. But one of the things I want to do tomorrow, and I'm trying to work it out. I'm talking to something from a newspaper to actually writing an article on the basis of this. If you're so popular, Nigel, why don't you ask all your 200,000 members to vote who should be on the board? And at the moment, the board is made up of Zia and him. And it's a company. Yeah. It used to be Reform UK Limited. It's now Reform 2025 Limited, and they still have control. And Ben Habib's taught me so much, and I'm very close to Ben. And we got the GB PAC thing we're working on together at the moment, and that's bigger and bigger. That's trying to bring the right of politics together. Everyone in the right of politics can come along and join GB PAC. And and Ben is doing that quietly and slowly behind the scenes, not rushing into it. The point we need to do is, Nigel, if you're so committed to making sure we have a proper government, the policies that we all aspire to, if you're so committed to that, then stand up for election within your party to be leader.
Yeah.
Who's to say he's actually going to get elected again? He might not get
Well,
elected in Clacton again. And then he's not an MP, and then he certainly wouldn't be Prime Minister.
I'm just
No,
talking about, leader of reform.
Yeah.
I take your point, Danny. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The fact he's not been voted into that position. He came back, dumped Richard down him, got rid of Ben Habib and said, right, I'm now the leader. Hang on a second. This is a dictatorship, for Christ's sake.
This is exactly how that's it. And that, so even if he did win with his current track record, he would make Keir Starmer look like a teddy bear, and that's the worrying thing about this.
Yes.
So, and honestly, I mean, do you know what, Howard? I think the GB PAC thing, and that's what I'm alluding to, really. I think GB PAC could be a political party waiting to happen. If you get that broad coalition of people, you get
it's
those.
Going that way. It's going
Exactly.
that way. You put it on. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I mean, look, that's a great point. That's a great point. Let me just read out a couple of supers, and I want to get into that. Let's have a look. Kurz 10. I find it suspicious Mohammed Azia funded Conservatives now reformer, an unknown with a lot of say. Kobe has gifted 5 memberships. Thank you, Kobe. Steve Edwards. I emailed Rupert with support. He got back to me. It's always nice when that. Always nice when that happens. Epic 2000. What shocked me is that Reform have carried on like the left in their attack against Rupert. Maybe Rupert's best move now would be to join UKIP. We'll talk about that as well in a second. The Grim Reaper. Thank you, Paul. I did a video on a hotel with 450 in there. I spoke to a cab driver who dropped off someone there. They told me they had a contract. They don't pay anything. Oh, dear. I don't think we need any more winding up tonight. Thank you very much, Grim Reaper. Muttley, appreciate that. Ben Habib, Rupert Lowe and Andrew Bridgen are the best we have to offer. They need to come together. And I will say the man on screen now as well for my money. Guys, look, where does... I was going to ask where Reform goes from here, but I think the bigger question probably is where does Rupert Lowe go from here? I mean, is there another party on the offing? I mean, is that a genuine potential, Howard? Could that possibly come about?
Well, Ben and Rupert have been in various, I wouldn't say clandestine meetings, but they've been going to dinner together to talk about the future. I mean, Ben was aware of what was coming up on this one. I had got an inkling about what's going on about it. But fundamentally, what you could see is that Rupert was getting traction in popularity. And you don't do that with a Nigel's party. You can't have more than one popular person. And Rupert, I repeat that day when I've said this many times, that on that day I stood for London Mayor and I went down to Westminster, put my vote for me in the ballot box at Westminster. Not one person from Reform headquarters came and even took a picture of me putting my vote in the ballot box. The only person there, Rupert Lowe. He was right by him, and we went off for a coffee afterwards. And he said, I'm really hopeful because, Nigel is on the brink of coming back to lead the party, but it's before the general election. And we're just waiting for Sunak to run for the hills because he wanted a wrong foot reform. And then suddenly Nigel appears and everything's great. And Rupert is a devout, loyal supporter of Nigel. He's never rubbishes him. You listen to him. He never does. But look what's happening now. I've been rubbished by Nigel. Ben Habib's been rubbished by Nigel. And Rupert has been rubbished by Nigel. And, Nigel, if you look at his tweets, and he's rang him, he's left messages, and he said, let's sit round the table, let's have a dinner together, and let's sort this out. But that's not happening with Nigel. It never does. He runs away from confrontation. He can't handle it.
Also sending out their attack dogs. I mean, you've got Isabel Oakeshott, on Talk TV, or I mean, I've got to tell you, I'm sick of listening to her voice. I mean, honestly, I've had enough.
No wonder Richard spends so much time in Parliament.
Yeah, well, he's in Dubai, isn't he?
Keith Griffiths, thank you, Keith. Rupert, Ben, Howard, and Paul come together to form a new party. Reform is going to fail and cannot be trusted. Thank you, Keith. Margaret, I will not be voting Reform now. Claire Bear, thank you, Claire Bear. Do you know what, Claire? I've turned the slow mode on tonight, so hopefully you, Ian, and the other guys in the mods there will be having a bit of an easier night. Claire Bear, thank you. To use dementia as a tool to attack someone is sick, not a laughing matter.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And to anyone that's got a family member that's suffering from that hideous disease, imagine how that feels. Epic 2000, thank you. The Americans do not want more uni party in the UK. They want someone aligned with them. Rupert is the closest. Now, this is the big question. Is the big man ultimately behind all this, Elon Musk? Because he's the one that said Nigel is not the man. And Elon, whether you love him, whether you hate him, he's the richest man on the planet. And that, for me, means he knows what he's doing.
You're
now,
absolutely
he
right.
said
Elon,
that Nigel is not the man.
Yeah, he's not. He's not. Up
He
to
could
the
quite
job.
easily financially back it, couldn't he? He could financially
the
back a new
question,
party
Danny.
and pick it and pick his players quite well, couldn't he?
This is the part where it starts to become very, very exciting, and the potentials are absolutely mind-boggling. And again, I mean, I won't go into this too much tonight, but my planned or proposed trip to the United States with delegates from this country. I know that Howard, I spoke to you about it. I've spoke to Ben. I've spoke to Alex Phillips about it. The response has been across the board has been positive. People think it's an amazing idea, but we'll park that for a minute. Let's talk about the potentials of a new party being funded potentially by the richest man in the world, with an interest in the UK, with a president of the United States with an interest in the UK, and British blood in him in his history. Oh my God, I could feel myself getting excited just even thinking about it. Richard, I mean, what do you think?
It seems like a dream ticket. No, I don't think so. I mean, look, we know what Ben is doing with the GB pack, and obviously Howard's involved. Other people we know are involved in that. I haven't really looked at it much because I've been so busy with all the other chaos that's been going on in my life. But it's something I'm really excited about. So I think there's massive potential in GB pack, and if it's done right, it can very quickly, if reform implodes, which I personally think they will. I think if there's one more of these big scalps that's taken out of the taken out of the equation, here's a problem for reform. What happens if Lee Anderson says something outrageous one day? Because Lee's got a track record for it. Let's get it right. What do they do then when they try to go down this cuddly Liberal Democrat road? I mean, Nigel said it himself. He's trying to base his model on the Lib Dems. Now I know he's on about voter management, but maybe there's more to it than that. Maybe he wants to be a bit of an Ed Davey on the the slides and the tripwires and all that sort of stuff.
Bungee jumping,
yeah, bungee jumping. I mean, Nigel bungee jumping, for goodness sake. Well, he's been in the jungle already. So the thing is, there is absolutely a space there. If somebody like Elon Musk, it doesn't have to be Elon. If Ben manages to get a lot of big backers into GB pack and it ranges a lot of funding and they've got some really good policies and some really good people, it's a party in waiting. And what that can do, it's the same with UKIP, because this is why I'm in UKIP. UKIP's there to put pressure on reform and bring reform to the right. UKIP's not going to win the next election, right? There's no doubt about that. But if we can put pressure on reform and say we're very much for this and we're very much for that, then it can drag reform in the right direction and stop them with this slide.
The point is, Richard, GB pack is simply I don't like using the word think tank, but what it is putting together right-wing policies, that matter to the people, to the majority, especially the silent majority. And the claim is, Ben is putting together a list of these policies, and then he's going to invite every single right of centre leader, and that's including UKIP, including reform, including Kemi Badenoch, all of the right side of the politics. Sit round the table. What do you think of these policies? Do you buy into them? Because we test them. We're going to get some majority support for it in terms of asking punters in the street. And once you get to that stage, now if they don't, if Nigel doesn't turn up because he doesn't like Ben, that's because what will happen. That starts just throwing your rattle out the pram, isn't it? So what we're in a situation we want to do, if no one turns up to it, or only a few turn up to it, the next stage is, okay, you didn't like it. Now we're going to set up a party that's going to deliver it. And that's the direction of travel that Ben's on.
It's perfect.
I think. Sorry, Richard. A bit of a delay.
No, just before I forget, Paul. Just what do you know? What feeds into that as well, Paul? The pledge, because if we can continue,
absolutely.
obviously we've kind of not parked the pledge. We haven't been, because we've all been so busy doing other stuff.
We've been so busy. Yeah.
We haven't had a chance to pay it much attention. I've been not too well. So once we get a bit of time, if we can get that pledge up to that 100,000 sort of level, which is not, it's not a kick in the backside off. That makes it a big player in the picture as well. So and Ben's involved with the pledge already. So if we kind of tie it loosely to GB Pack, then we can actually get in touch with voters, because we've got all their email addresses, we've got all the postcodes, so we can go bang. You're in this area. What do you think about this policy? So you can actually challenge the MPs on. So we could get the policies from GB Pack and get them out to the people on our mailing list. And again, it's just another string to the bow. So I think it's really exciting, and that's why a lot of people were panicking about this thing with reform. I'm going, in the overall scheme of things, we've got 4 years, but we need to be at it now, and that's why I'm so excited about what Howard's saying tonight about GB Pack.
And
that's exactly what I was hoping it was.
Here's the thing about funding as well. Whilst, I mean, yes, every political party needs massive funding, but I can tell you this now. I don't even have to think about this. I know for a 100% certain fact that the beautiful, patriotic people of this country, if they see something, if they can feel something tangible, there's 1 million people out there that would happily donate £1 a month to save this country.
Course.
So it could be funded. It could be funded very easily, very simply. We've got over 7,000 people watching tonight. Thank you so much, guys. Please give us an upvote. That is what helps the show. Stephen Boyce, a few weeks ago, you asked for songs to be sung at demos like Trump YMCA. I think the 4 choirs of the 4 nations during the 2012 Olympics, Heartwarming, Jerusalem, Flower of Scotland, Danny Boy, and Bread of Heaven. I'll go along with that. Muttley, thank you. Whatever they do, they need to stand strong and be united. The more the support grows, the more muck will be flung their way. Listen, as far as I'm concerned, reform, even only last week, I was saying, look, this is our only chance. It's the only game in town. It's the only horse in the race. This is before the events with Rupert, etc. A lot of people's heads are going to be turned, because I believe, Howard, that if a new political party was set up with someone like Rupert at the head of it, us lot would be invited in with open arms. And that is an absolute game changer, because the support out there is just off the scale. And this is where I think Nigel has been naive. He's always ignored my messages to him. I've got his phone number. I've sent him numerous messages in the past. I've invited him on. Come and have your say. Come and open your arms to us. Let's get another 1 million voters on board for you. Never a single reply or response or any recognition whatsoever. This is where they've gone wrong. They say they're the party of the people, but they're not.
Well, a new party...
Are we splitting the vote again, though? Are we splitting the vote again if there's another party that goes out there?
What vote is there to split, Danny? Sorry, let Howard finish what he was saying. Go on.
Well, I was only going to say, the point is, Rupert, to me, I'd follow Rupert, very much so, but I wouldn't follow him as a messiah. I'd follow him because he's an intelligent person who's actually thinking about his country. He's not taking a salary. All his money goes every month into charities in Great Yarmouth. All those sorts of things. Yes, he's a rich man. He can do that. We know that, but that's not the point. He's actually, he's walking the walk, not just talking the talk. Nigel is still one of the most incredible communicators, and he articulates brilliantly. He is. Very clever man, and he did give us Brexit. If we've had it, I mean, we haven't had it. But at the end of the day, if it wasn't for him, we'd still be in the EU and subject to the, we are subject to the European Court of Human Rights. But what I'm saying is, if someone like Rupert, Ben, I'm disappointed in Lee Anderson because he's been. He's not coming out of this too well. I mean, the first thing he's one of the few people that 2 days after I came second got 23% of the vote down in Dover, he came up with it. He said in text, "You're a credit to the party, Howard," and that made me feel so good. Lee Anderson saying, "Yeah." But watched his performance recently. I'm so disappointed. because Rupert has not shafted anyone in the party. He's demanded to see them about policies. He's been excluded from policy meetings, all those sorts of things. This is a long-term pathway to get rid of Rupert Lowe. And I mean, I hope I think if he stood as an independent tomorrow in Great Yarmouth, he'd still get elected. And that's the encouragement for me.
Danny, go on. Sorry, carry on what you was going to say, my friend.
No, I was going to say that are we, if we did set up Rupert, Ben, whoever, to set up another party? I mean, on the last election, 4.2 million people voted for reform. At the moment, they've gone up quite substantially. They're talking between 6 and 8 million people now would vote reform.
Yeah.
Prior to any of this happening, but I think they only need between 10 and 12 million to get a reform majority. So 10 to 12 million votes. I mean, if they're getting between 6 and 8 now, we're still 4 years away from the election. But are we splitting again? Are we splitting? I mean, look, I don't think Labour would ever get in again. I mean, I can't see anyone in their right mind voting for Labour again. But are we just splitting the votes again between?
Unfortunately, Danny,
right now,
they will. I've just
got.
But
look at, like I say,
your point about splitting the vote is that it's getting supported by Starmer. He loves it, and I'm afraid if we keep splitting it and keep spreading that disparate side of the right-hand side, Labour's going to have another term.
Yep, they will. And definitely. What a disaster that would be.
But that, I mean, I think this is where GB PAC does come in, and where the pledge comes in, and where the idea that we've been talking about of the grand coalition comes in. That basically what has to happen is, if reform, look, the likelihood is reform is still going to be in the game, and it's going to be very difficult to negotiate with Nigel because of the way he is. But the best way to do it is actually look at if GB PAC becomes a political party or doesn't become a political party, whatever parties you've got there, whether it's the right of the Conservative Party, because there will be some people who vote Tory, there'll be a lot of people in certain areas will vote Tory because they can't help themselves. You're going to have Reform, they're going to have a massive vote. And if you got UKIP and maybe some sort of independence or something going on with GB PAC, you could build this grand coalition. But it takes a lot of goodwill from all the people involved. And I still think the problem that we've got is at the very heart of Reform. It's Nigel, Zia, and Tice, and that's what worries me in all this.
It's very funny you say that, Richard. I'd sent another WhatsApp message from someone who I respect immensely, a very senior gentleman in and around the Reform scene. Obviously, I don't name these people, but they've just said, Paul, I know the truth. Rupert is a good guy, and the truth will end Zia. This is all smoke to save Zia. That's the message that I'm sent.
Well, let's hope. Let's hope.
Someone else just messaging me saying, Paul, if we had a new party, I'd happily pay £10 a month. Let's make it happen. Look, I mean, a lovely message, but here's the deal, right? Is that, I know a lot of people have said to me in the past, oh, Paul, you should stand for this, you should do, but look, it needs people a lot more switched on and a lot more capable than someone like myself. I mean, look, we've got the Howard Coxes, we've got the Rupert Lowes, we've got the Ben Habibs, we've got these people around, we've got the Liz Trusses potentially. There's a lot of big names out there that could come together. And I tell you what my prediction would be. The way Reform is going right now, what they're actually doing is they're replacing the People's Party with the Tory Party light. And what they're going to end up with is very fickle Tory voters who will probably end up going back to the Tory Party where they came from.
I think you got it spot on, Paul. I think you got it spot on. I think, and let's face it, that Nigel is moving more and more centralist. He's become a situation now where he doesn't. One of the big fallouts he's had with Rupert's called for mass deportation. If you're illegal over here, you're deported. You go. But Nigel doesn't support that. And that's you got a party of 5 MPs, for Christ's sake, get that policy. The contract with the people, which I helped write some of it, particularly the transport one. There's still top line policies. It's all very well. I get rid of the death tax, inheritance tax, which he stood in Whitehall. I was not far from him while he was talking at the farmers' rally this week. I watched him and he had his sycophants around him. They were worshipping beyond belief, and he said we would get rid of inheritance tax. Yeah, okay, fine. How would you actually replace that money? That we've got to be sensible with this sort of thing. It's like, someone said to me, how are you going to get a 20p cut in fuel duty? Well, it's already happening. I'd get rid of overseas aid for 2 years. Let's just do that. And if you do overseas aid, the only people that get that money are British companies working over there. These are the sorts of things that common sense. But you don't hear that from Nigel. You don't hear concrete policies. You hear vaporware. And we need real concrete. And Rupert was delivering real policies.
And here's the thing. I mean, I personally believe that apart from a natural, I mean, if there's a massive earthquake somewhere and there's kids under buildings, then of course you send money, you go help them, right? But apart from natural disasters, I don't believe that a single British penny should leave this country, should leave these shores when our own people are still struggling. Let me just read one or two of the supers. Clara, thank you. I'm with you, Richard. We need a new party. We've got time. Thousands of people whooping will support and campaign for the party here. Let's go. Got a big question for you guys. I'm going to tell you what it is and we'll get to it in just a second. Thank you, Clara. What was that? Clara, thank you very much. So the question is that's going to be coming up in a minute. I'll read a few more supers out before we get to it. But would a new party be better placed just absolutely going to war with the mainstream media, saying it is, doing a Donald Trump, say, look, this is how it's going to be. We're either going to speak to you and you're going to listen, or we're not going to speak to you at all, and we'll just go social media. We'll do it that way. I want you to think about that one for a minute, guys. Would we have to go to war? Would they have to go to war with the mainstream media? Ken Warburton, Farage can't share the limelight, hence Habib, Cox and Lowe had to go. Farage and Yusuf should resign now. No longer can I support reform at the moment.
And if I remember Ken from previous chats, Ken was a very, very strong reform supporter back sort of 6 months ago. So, if that's happening on a large scale and they're losing the base, it is a serious existential threat to the project that we want, which is saving the country. Because I don't care what the vehicle is. I just want the country saved, And
Kevin says reform without Farage is a dead party. I don't think that's right, Kevin. Really, I think Nigel could be replaced. But, you're entitled to your opinion. Thank you. Jenny McNally, we need a new party of people that want to represent the people, not themselves, and who do not deny Tommy. Jenny, message of the evening so far. Thank you so much for that. Absolutely agree. That is what we want. We want a goddamn people's party. That is what we're craving for. That is what the nation is craving for. A political party run by ordinary people with ordinary hearts that love their nation and love their brothers and sisters. For God's sake, it's too much to ask for.
And not in it for themselves, they're in it for the country. Exactly. And there's too many of these. You see, the Reform MPs, with the exception of Rupert, they've got their bums on the green leather now. And, they've got their £90,000 a year. They've got their staff around them. They get their adoration wherever they go. And, you listen to it, there's no depth and feeling for the people. They talk a pretty little story around things like net zero. But you never hear someone talking net zero. How an old age pensioner can't afford to heat her front room? She's surrounded by blankets all around her. You don't hear bringing it down to the people, and all you hear is this big thing about big companies. You saw them. I think it was Nigel and Richard did a press conference about 3 or 4 weeks ago, attacking all those companies. People like Dale Vince's company who've had subsidies for green subsidies, and they would be told that they got to pay it back. All very nice, but what does it mean to Mrs. Bloggs who can't heat her front room? Those are the sorts of things. Yeah. And Rupert's very good at bringing it down to a personal level, and certainly so is Ben. And that's how I've been quite successful in terms of someone who can't actually get to the hospital in their car because they can't afford to fill their tanks up. You bring it to that level, you'll get support.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just think that a genuine people's party with people that bloody answer a question for a start. I mean, how sick are we, all of us, of watching politicians being asked a question and they just do their utmost to ignore it and talk a load of absolute bull crap? I mean, let's go back to the question, Danny. Would the new party need to go to absolute war with the mainstream media, probably even beyond Trump-esque style?
Well, it's worked for Trump, hasn't it? Very much so. That's why he originally kept his Twitter/X account, is because he wanted to have a direct speech, a direct line of communication without it being diluted and misconstrued and sort of messed around by the media. So yes, I believe, in answer to your question, 100%, they need to 100% go, because the mainstream media is a massive part of the problem. We're lied to consistently by the mainstream media.
You cannot.
No
they're
way.
Impossible to work with. Richard, what's your views?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to throw a massive curveball here, because I'm going to mention three names: Elon Musk, Tulsi Gabbard, and RFK. Right? What is their background? Every single one of them was a Democrat. Now, just think about that for a minute, right? So we've got to actually think really, really strategically here, because the reason they're in Trump's party, and they're, Gabbard's, running intelligence, Elon's doing the Doge thing, RFK's doing the health thing. What we actually need, more than having a great media strategy, we need strategy. In other words, we need a plan. If we, when I say we, because we're all going to be involved in this, whatever it's going to be, we need a plan. And I don't think Reform's got this, where when we get power and we get the keys to number 10 as a party, that we have got people that are getting into that civil service, getting into the quangos, disbanding Ofcom, finding out where our foreign aid budget's going, saving money. We have a Doge. We have someone looking at the NHS. We have someone looking at security. We have someone looking at energy. And we basically we need a Trumpian revolution in the UK after the next election. So it's not even good enough just to get elected. As soon as you get elected, and this is where Trump went wrong last time, he didn't have that depth of thoughtful people that could go in and be ruthless enough to get
this time he was ready
to be done. Yeah, but the problem is, I'm sorry, Reform supporters, Reform in its current form will not have the depth of high intellect, high achieving people that can get the stuff done that needs to get done. Now, I'm not one of them. I'm just a voice in the wilderness. But the reality is there are some very clever people in this country still that could get involved in that, get engaged, and could actually turn the country around. And they're the sort of people that we need in the party. And to be honest with you, it doesn't matter what their political history is. It matters what they believe now. And if they can be like Gabbard and Elon and RFK, then they can actually do something about it and turn it around. So I think that's a more important question than how we deal with the media. It's how we deal with the blob, the deep state, and everything that's gone wrong in there.
Howard, I've always believed, and I've never known quite why it hasn't happened. So maybe I'm simple or simplifying the whole thing, but I've always believed that if politicians were just honest with the public, if they opened their hearts and spoke like human beings and were grounded and genuinely cared about other people's families and other people's children and their livelihoods and their jobs and their mortgages, I believe that the nation would flock in their droves from the left and from the right towards that party, because when you see people that actually care, and they care, they mean well, even if you don't necessarily like them. And I get that feeling sometimes a little bit with George Galloway when I listen to him. I don't agree with much that George Galloway says, but every now and again he resonates with me, because I know that he means it. When he spoke about sending the troops to Ukraine just the other day, he said he looks forward to seeing all those in favour in khaki, and he's absolutely right.
Yeah, well, you're saying such good stuff as ever, Paul. The point is we have a mainstream media issue. That MSM, I think I told you, I think a couple of weeks ago when I was on your show, I had a big press release about the cost of potholes in this country. It's going to cost 14.5 billion to repair potholes, but believe it or not, to repair the roads that they're on, only another billion. So it would take it up to about 15, 16 billion. So that's the stupidity of it. We got a sticking plaster policy type approach.
Yeah.
Now, I submitted that to my good friends. I've got some really good friends in the papers. I write for the Sun Express. I've written for those things. But because they said to me, great story, Al, but we won't be publishing it because you support Tommy Robinson.
Tommy, yeah.
Now, you see, and that's what's wrong with this thing. And your point about honesty is that I still go up to Westminster. I still talk to politicians. There's one, I was secretary to an all-party parliamentary group called Fair Fuel for Motorists and Hauliers, which is basically the fulcrum to try and keep fuel duty frozen or cut. That's what we've been successful for 15 years. For 15 years, I've always, no problem. MPs were clamouring to chair it. I can't get a chair this year for it. Again, I'm told it's because I support Tommy Robinson. You see, we're in a situation now. When you talk to these MPs privately over a beer or in the tea bar in the House of Commons, they say to you privately, Howard, we do support you. We're right behind you. We believe you. But the honesty only comes one-to-one. It won't go across the mainstream media with them.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going to rock. I'd love Elon.
Lack of courage.
Well, I love Elon Musk to buy out Rupert Murdoch and buy the Sun and talk TV. And, that's the sort of thing. He could do that. It's loose change for him. And then we'd have a paper that will actually be positioning itself in honesty, because that's what he does on Twitter, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, people have been saying to me since I mentioned the potential trip to America, people have been saying to me, oh, Paul, what do you hope to achieve? How would you approach it? And do you know what I've said to every one of them? I just go over there as a human being and hope that they recognise that.
Well,
you can't bull.
Yeah, common sense.
You can't.
Yeah,
you can't bullshit these people. Exactly. No, humility, common sense, honesty. You look a man in the eye, and hopefully they can see your heart. And if they can see your heart, you'll get on well with them. You'll understand. You'll build relationships. You don't need to go to America with the biggest names in the world. What you need to go to America with is the biggest heart in the world.
Yeah. Love it.
And if you can go with the biggest heart, thank you, mate. If you can go with the biggest heart, you stand a chance of winning other people's hearts, because it's hearts that win hearts.
Hearts and
minds, I don't know why the politicians just cannot get their goddamn, for all their education.
Don't see that.
For all their education, Danny, that they're not clever enough to know that the people just respect the truth and integrity.
Well said,
I completely agree.
Well said.
Thank you. Epic 2020.
When was the last time we had a politician? When was the last time we had a politician in power that cared, genuinely cared?
Well, Danny, I think there's been some that care. I just don't think they've been allowed to care.
Not in authority, though.
Well,
I think you'll find David Davis and Ian Duncan Smith. There are a couple of people that you really have put their head above the parapet regarding China and regarding benefits, respectively, those sorts of things. The problem is, as you quite rightly said, Paul, you hear it's like Isabel Oakeshott, who, I thought was a friend and Richard's a friend, but she's attacking Rupert now. Hang on a second. What's that come from? She's taking the party line. And this is the problem. They're whipped into decisions that, they don't deep down believe. I mean, Isabel told me, only about 5 or 6 months ago, Howard, you've been treated terribly by the party. But did she go in the press and say it? No, she just told me privately.
I'll tell you what's annoying me with Isabel Oakeshott recently is the fact that she's coming over like a stuck-up Tory toff who would not give the time of day to anyone that lives in an house that's worth £5 less than hers, right? And I can't stand that in people. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are. You treat everyone the best, and that you treat everyone the same. You treat them all with the same humility, with the same respect, until they prove you should treat them otherwise. And the way she talks down about people, can you imagine what she says about people who live in council estates?
Yeah.
Can you even imagine how they feel about these people? That lot.
And
Right,
that's the
let me read
logical,
one or two of the. That's the problem, Richard. Exactly. Epic 2000. Thank you, mate. Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba should be the movement
Brilliant.
song. We've been knocked down, but we're getting up again. We'll also be singing when we're winning. I tell you something, guys, right? I actually feel really, really positive tonight because there's something in the water. Something is happening. You can feel it. And it my God, if Ben and the others are on the ball and we can get Elon on board, and my God, it could be amazing. Tracy, Farage is keeping the Muslim vote sweet. Yusuf is a major donator and has links to big money in the Middle East. Think about it. Thank you, Tracy. Angela, on talk, Stephen Wolf as guest. Very interesting. Thank you, Angela. Richard the Iman. Danny makes a very valid point about reform. Do we know if they failed to report the allegations in December to the parliamentary standards? Thank you, Hunter. Appreciate that. Thank you, Nathan. And Joan, even if it had some truth, it's Rupert's decision when to release the news, not reforms. Isn't it GDPR? Lady of the Manor. Paul, where do we go for asylum when it all goes sour? Thanks for what you do.
Yes.
Well, that's a good point. Colin Walton, Farage is not for us lot. He is for the establishment.
I agree.
I agree, Colin.
Very
Green
true.
Leopard,
Yeah.
Super Party, Low, Habib, Cox, Truss even. Who else would you guys include? Good question, that. Who else would you include, Richard?
Well, they were the top. They were the top team, but I get Suella Braverman in there. Do you know what? I'm going to say something very controversial. I'd bring Nick Tenconi across from UKIP and bring all the UKIP people with him as well, because I think for street level stuff and for the working class, I think Nick's doing a grand job and he's got some good morals. So I'd bring Nick over.
Yeah, I agree. I'd bring Nick over. Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And
Tommy.
Let's have a look. Goes without saying. I mean, Rupert, here's a question for you. Sorry, Howard, here's a question about Rupert. Big one for you. All three of you, actually. Should he go and visit Tommy?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the only thing that's stopping him is because of the pressure from within the party. I learned that very quickly way back when I was on Dan Wootton's show last August when he asked me about Tommy. And I that's when I first revealed my colours, that hang on a second, this guy deserves special treatment, not be, being treated as a human being, not as a piece of something at the bottom of your shoe, which is what most of the politicians and the newspapers are doing. And ever since that day, I've been basically seen as a reform pariah. And I've been attacked by what I thought were, no one's a real friend in politics, I'm afraid, but I thought people I could trust. They suddenly all turned on me, sharpened their blades and shoved them in my back all over the place. And in answer to your question about Rupert being there, I haven't spoken to Rupert about this, but I understand through another contact that he's sympathetic about meeting him. And I think what that means, yes, he would go. I tried to go and get a second visit this week and I was turned down. I don't know why. I've asked for them to tell me why have I been turned down, because I don't run a channel. I just, I'm on Twitter, but I've been on Twitter for the last 15 years saying my piece about the governments and various things.
Well,
like
unfortunately, Howard, once you get involved with that Richard Inman, that's the way it goes. I mean, you won't get served in the local pub soon, mate. I tell you.
Believe it. You better believe it.
I gotta tell you, mate. I gotta tell you. But
the serious point is that Rupert is definitely up for something like that. I can almost guarantee that. Ben wanted to come along, but he couldn't come to that day where he would have come with me on my day. When you arranged it, Paul. But he couldn't come to that because I think he's had a major business commitment. And don't forget, he's running a serious big property, multi-million pound property business, as well as being on frontline. He's virtually always on GB News, isn't he? Every other day.
Amazing.
Let me give all those guys a little bit of friendly advice, because I love them all. Ben and obviously Howard, you've already taken it the chance, and you've already been to see the man. But guys, Ben and all Ben and Rupert, look, listen. bit of advice: get yourself along to Woodhill, go and see the man, have a chat with him, see how you get on with him, see what you think. Because when he comes out, I tell you who is going to want to meet him: the man in America, and then everyone's going to want to meet him. So you get in now, or you don't get in later.
Yeah,
That's the situation.
Oh yeah, you've got to get the bloody opportunists who want to jump on the bandwagon when he comes out and gets that notoriety. I hate that. I see it all the time.
Oh, but the good news is, Howard, he's a man that will remember who his friends are.
No, I told you he's inspirational, and I think he's a hero. I really do.
Totally
Lovely.
Agree.
David Crosby,
you know
the
what?
night
He's one of those people.
Very exciting. Sorry, Richard. Let me just read this.
He's one of those people. He's one of those people that the more you get to know Tommy, the more you actually like him. You know, listen, there's very few people out there like that. You know, Paul's like that as well, and Danny. but the more I've got to say that because you want to have me back on the show. But the truth is with Tommy, it's true with Tommy. The more you get to know him, the more you get to like him. You know what I mean?
Oh, so it's true with Tommy. Hold on,
it's true with you. It's true with you too as well.
I'll give you a pass on that one, Richard. Right, I'll have another go. David Crosby, The Night Agent, Netflix, very exciting, 5-star. Haven't seen that. Sharon, thank you, Sharon. Paul, your idea of a new party is what we need 100%. Not sure it's my idea, Sharon, but thank you very much. Kenny, thank you, Kenny. Reform only became a party in July and skyrocketed, and it looks like it will become crashing down quicker. There is no reason another party can't skyrocket just as quick. Keep believing. 100%. Now, here's the thing. You know what, Kenny, you're right, because as I said, I go back to what I was saying a minute ago. The British people are absolutely frigging desperate, and they would jump all over it. 7,500 people watching. Please give me a thumbs up, guys. Would really appreciate that. Happy Hiker from Biker Andy, super sticker, thank you. And Janine White, my father-in-law sadly passed with dementia last year. Totally disgusted with reform now. Feels like we are sinking lower by the day. But the good news is, Janine, is that before you can fix, sometimes everything has to be broken. Guys, listen, thank you. We got a couple more things to get through. No more supers tonight, though. Thank you very much, because I want to try and read out some of the regular messages as well. Someone said to me the other day, why do I only read out the supers? Well, it's because people are kind enough to support the channel, and they deserve to have their messages read out. And I couldn't possibly read out the 6,000 messages that we've currently got sitting in the back end. But thank you for asking anyway. Michael says, we can't keep splitting into ever smaller parties. Nigel is the problem here. He should be forced out. The trouble is, you can't force out a man when he owns the bloody party, pretty much. Paul G, 63. Danny's right about the vote split. No. Paul, I would say that we are not splitting the vote. It's the people concerned. I mean, you can't blame anyone else other than the people involved at Reform for this aggravation over the weekend. Claire Bear, again, thank you, Claire Bear. Richard Tice Mrs. lives in Dubai with her children, has better schools. What does that tell you? P.S. I'm going for Prime Minister. Claire, you can have my vote. Ken Warburton, thank you. Habib, Cox, Braveman, Bridgham to form a new party. I can feel something in the air. Mystic Turtles, Farage killed UKIP, Brexit Party, now UKIP. The trends are obvious. He is the kiss of death to a political party. Last one for the moment, at least. Carl Broccoli, UKIP and Nick Tanconi. We don't need a new party. Get behind UKIP. Nick is the real deal and not establishment. Look, I'm not going to disagree with that. But what I will say is that we need more than just Nick for that to happen. Nick couldn't do it on his own. And I think Nick would probably admit that.
I'm sure he would. I'm sure he would. I mean, the reality is that UKIP is a piece of the jigsaw. The pledge is a piece of the jigsaw. GB PAC's a piece of the jigsaw. Reform's a piece of the jigsaw, and the rump of the Tory party, the right wing rump of the Tory party, is a piece of the jigsaw. So yes, I saw that one with Mystic Turtles. So I think there is space there for something to happen, and it's just working out how to do it to bring people together, and not to have lots and lots of small parties, because it's a question, But I think if something's really good, that people will naturally gravitate towards it. I think if you're Ben, Rupert, Braverman, I was going to say Tice there for some reason. Forget about him. All the right wing people that we love and we know are the real deal. Oh, Liz Truss. I think Liz Truss has been very impressive lately. I've seen a lot of what Liz Truss has been saying.
Yeah, I've been watching her quite a bit.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Whatever way you look at this, right? Whether it's Rupert's the problem, whether it's Zia Youssef the problem, Nigel Farage, it's gone from 5 to 4, right? MPs, and that's not good. No matter what way you look at it, it's not good. And then if Lee Anderson then starts, as you say earlier, if he then starts coming at a problem, what's it going to go from 4 to 3? They might as well just chuck the towel in,
I agree.
We have so many people watching tonight. I mean, I've got 7,500 here. Richard, I've just had a quick look on your channel. You've got 800 people watching on yours. Very popular live stream tonight. Thank you so much, everyone. Learning. I can't never quite read that one. The fact that Farage gets mainstream airtime tells me all I need to know about reform. Zoe, thank you, Zoe. New party with Rupert Habib. Liz will pull in Tommy supporters. UKIP reform for Australian Labour Tory supporters. Elon and millions. Brits will support it. Oh, do you know what? I think it'll call for a bottle of champagne now, wouldn't it? Stephen Boyce, thank you. It would, Danny. If you go to the north of England, you have never Tories and vote Labour. Sorry, my reading tonight. It's a bit difficult for me to read this screen. But also votes in Brexit. Nigel is a plastic Tory. 3.7% of Northern Ireland is diverse, according to BBC News. If you're British and proud, move to Northern Ireland. Well, Richard knows all about that one. Kenny, thank you. Tommy for Foreign Affairs Secretary. Corinne, keep up the great work, guys. Thank you, Corinne. Tracy, it's the civil servants we need to reorganise the MPs, take orders from them. And Real Caster, Oliver Cromwell, clear Parliament and the Lords. Right, so guys, look, as we move towards the end, last super chat of the evening, Paul, thank you. Join Reform for my £25 2 weeks ago. Not even a thank you. Wow. Let's end it on this one, guys. What's the next week hold, Howard? How is the next week going to pan out?
I wish I had a crystal ball to give me that answer, but
we won't hold you to it.
No. I think there will be some backroom meetings, because you've got to appreciate that when you're sitting on the green leather, those five usually sit together. How are they going to? Tomorrow they're in Parliament again. Where he's an independent, so he's got to sit probably with. There's quite a few independents. There's quite a few, Muslim independents there now. But the fact is, how are they going to treat Rupert? And the point is, you're going to see Starmer and Badenoch all taking advantage of this and going for reform big time. So I think this could be a real difficult time for Nigel to try and defend it. And I do see more and more people saying Zia should drop down from chairman. I don't know whether be sacked or thrown out, but I think, and I go back to my point, why not have some real, if you want a Democratic Party, Nigel, you say you've got now by, you've got rid of your shares, but you still got controlling with your Reform 2025 party. Ask the membership, put out a ballot and put down about 10 positions in the party, which is, in other words, who's in charge of comms, who's in charge of the chair, finance, all those sort of things in terms of voting, who's, in terms of canvassing, campaigning. Who do you want there? Yeah. Put 30 names down and let people vote. And, let's see where that would go. And I bet you won't do that. But I'd like to see him do
The
that.
thing is, though, this is beyond any reconciliation. Surely, Richard, can you see any reconciliation going on here? Talks or no talks? It's gone beyond that.
No,
Surely.
I think it's. I mean, the way they've been speaking about the man is, listen, he's got his own not pride, but he's got his own self-respect, and he is. I've watched Rupert a lot. He's an alpha male. He's not going to just sit back and go, "That's all right. You can slap me about, Nigel. I'll just take that and come back." I mean, he's far more successful than Nigel in business. I mean, and I'm not having a go at Nigel because obviously Nigel's devoted a lot of his time to politics. But if you look at his business career, it's absolutely stellar. So Rupert's the real deal, and I think it's a massive. I think it's just such a huge. I honestly think it's the end of reform as we know it, because that structure cannot continue to do that to people, because the British people don't like that. We all like fair play, and the people that are going to be voting reform do not want to be voting for a party that treats good people in that way. I mean, it is Stalinist. It really is. Somebody said it. One of the lefty commentators on, I think it was Talk TV, said it was Stalinist. I thought, actually, what that guy's saying is true. It is Stalinist getting rid of these people in that sort of way. It was even to the extent of the show trial that they're actually having in the media. It's absolutely disgusting. And I blame that on Yusuf, because what I've heard about Yusuf, he's the man that's pulling the trigger.
Who are they going to replace him with? Another failed Tory. That's the problem. Danny, what's your prediction for the next week?
Sorry, mate. Was
Danny?
that for me? Sorry, I was frozen then. Sorry, mate. I'm having a bit of ag with the internet.
What do you
again.
think? What do you think is going to happen over the next week?
It's very recently, by the looks of things, mentioned this potential dementia that he's got. He's very angry about that, by the looks of things, calling it "this is sick," which is disgraceful. I don't know, Paul. To be fair, he's been suspended, but even if I think it was proved that it wasn't the case, I don't think he'd go back there now anyway. So now he's an independent MP, and Reform were down one. So I just think, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting week or two, isn't it? Now it's going to be a very interesting. King's Council are looking into it now. Apparently, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, whatever we say now, we are literally guessing, really. But Richard, what do you see coming this week? Do you think that you think it's going to get worse, or do you think it's
Well, I think it'll probably calm down because the news cycle will get bored of it. So people just won't be talking about it. But I think Rupert will still be suspended.
It might not on X. I mean, it won't necessarily calm down on X.
Oh, on X, no, it'll not calm down on X. But I'm just thinking it is in the major news cycle. It's on the mainstream media. But obviously, we know what way they'll go. They'll always support the Uni Party, and if Reform are heading towards being either joining the Uni Party or being an outlier of it, then they're going to get the leadership will get supported by the main. And this is another problem with Nigel. Nigel craves the backing of the mainstream media. He hates being singled out as this right-wing extremist. He doesn't like that. You can tell when he's been interviewed, and that's why he avoids anything controversial. So, yeah, I mean, look, my opinion. I think we need to seriously look at how we can get some sort of new structure in place that is ready to go, not if Reform implode, but when they implode.
I actually think also, but I think MPs from all the other parties will just laugh at them. There'll be a laughing stock, there'll be PMQs, all those sorts of things, and that's going to be picked up. And this is manna for heaven from them. I see the popularity quotients for even Starmer, even though he's still in the negative area, he's gone up. And the same with Benedok, she's gone up. But Nigel's collapsed. So it just proves it, doesn't it? The popularity. Yep. What he's doing isn't popular. And he doesn't like that, does he, Richard?
No, he doesn't. I mean,
he's got a battle on his hands.
Yeah.
If he had any sense, he'd be on the phone, or I want him to come on the channel. This is the last super chat of the night. Ivan Blutarski, vote for policy, not party. Last question for. There's one or two more. Sorry, guys. Thank you very much. Last one. Anthony M. Can we create a festival in the country in the summer to celebrate our movement and show them what we're about. Not a protest, not a bad shout there, Anthony, to be fair.
September. Well, we're going to September's the big
September the 13th, isn't it?
Yep.
September the 13th.
Event in British history, without a shadow of a doubt.
Right, guys. Brilliant show again. Thank you so much, Howard. Really appreciate it and love having you on, mate. Same for you, Danny, obviously, and Richard goes without saying.
Apologies for my internet tonight again, Paul.
No, it's been brilliant, Danny. You've not had any problems at all up until the last minute. No problem at all. Thanks for everyone. Look on
this end I have, mate.
Apologies for my abrasive personality.
Before I go, I just want to say one thing. I've got a very, very good friend of mine, Paul. It's a very poignant day today for him. We all know why. Paul, thoughts and prayers with you, mate. Love you to bits. Thanks for all your support. Have a great week, everyone.
Yeah,
Stay
Paul,
safe.
I second that, mate.
And we will see you all soon. See you later, guys.